at us working on laser.
Oh, man. We never shut it down, Crushing Iron.
Never shut it down.
Nope. It's unbelievable. And it's a beautiful day to be working.
Oh, man, especially, cooped up inside, sitting at our desk and our laptop, working for the people.
Yep, putting it together, getting the motivation going, just sacrificing ourselves.
Yep, for the greater good. All right, that's enough of that.
Enough of that.
Enough of that.
Yeah, enough of that
What you doing,
self-loathing. I've been self-loathing enough lately. Hey, I've been thinking about the relentlessness of Ironman training a little bit.
Have you?
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps coming.
It does.
You know?
The date ain't changing.
No, it's not. It just sits in the corner like a hibernating bear waiting for you to stick your toe in the water.
Yeah, or a grumpy 2-year-old.
Grumpy 2-year-old. I've been watching Attilo a little bit.
I saw that on Facebook that you were watching that.
You know, I was thinking about how, you know, I kind of started drifting off. I was like, maybe someday Robbie and I'll do that. What do you think, buddy?
I've actually wanted to do that with you, but never thought I could get you to do enough swimming to be able to make it something to where I wouldn't feel like I was having to drag you the whole time.
Well, if I can get up in your draft, I could probably. Although I was watching that, some of those conditions there were a little rough.
That's what makes it awesome.
Yeah, but you get to use a pull buoy and a half wetsuit and some paddles, so I think I could probably hang for half that race at least.
That's true. Yeah, it's all about finishing together. And, I mean, honestly, it's about the experience. I mean, yeah, but that's...
Oh, totally. That's
something that I would totally be in for. So, hey, anybody listening, if you want to sponsor Mike and I's Attilo trip next year, hit us up.
Next year.
C26coach@gmail.com. Yeah.
Oh, I better get out. You better let me get out of my funk before I start signing up for Attilo.
We can do, 100 days to Attilo next year.
Yeah, 100 days to Attilo. Man, that
sounds
would be...
like a movie.
I know it does. That thing would be dramatic, man.
It's real dramatic.
Yeah. It looks kind of miserable in a lot of things, but...
So do most things in life. They actually, turn out not being too bad.
No, you just take it one stroke and stride at a time.
That's true.
That's what everybody's starting to think about with Wisconsin, right? They're
race week, baby.
It is race week. Is that unreal?
I'm pumped. Yeah, I had a nice little chat with one of my athletes already. I'll talk to all of them this week. And had a nice little chat with Ross this morning before I got my own swim in. And yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous that you're gonna be up there hanging out with all the people, but we both got to be at different places, and it's good. And hey, it's good that there are two of us, and that we can be in that C26 Crushing Iron can be two places at one time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, pretty pumped about that, that we have that ability and the opportunity to do that. And yeah, man, it's going to be an awesome weekend. There's a lot of people racing. I had some people race this morning on some Labor Day action, and everybody did great. And got a couple guys racing Santa Cruz 70.3 that I'm sure they're going to do awesome. 8 or 9 people at Wisconsin, they're going to do awesome. Then you got Pike at Worlds. I mean, it's just a lot going on, man. But it's going to be a great weekend. I'm looking forward to it all. I'm not gonna lie, man. I needed a little time to kind of re-energize the last few days. I needed some solo time to train in my own zone, and we've been just like smacking it weekend back-to-back weekends, and so it was really, really nice these last 3 or 4 days to kind of just hunker down and kind of put my headphones in and do some visualization for me and get some good solid rides and runs in. And I had an awesome 4,000 swim this morning, and I feel like things are starting to finally kind of turn the corner a little bit. And I apologize for not being on my best Steven Spielberg video game, but I can promise here on the air that I will be delivering better content, more creativity, different backdrops, and different T-shirts, and every other video that we have. So needed a few days, which I think you kind of did too. But yeah, it's all super motivating, to me. And I was talking to Ross this morning again, and he's like, yeah, hopefully this can be a motivator for you to nail. I was like, man, it's been a motivator for me since we started.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like, it's hard to not be motivated and energized with when you surround yourself with so many awesome people that are just that are, and it has nothing to do with like the time it's that they're going to get, or like the accolade or a podium. It's just like they're just all committed to getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to complete every week. They want to complete every training session. It's just awesome to be around. Now whether we always have the energy to match our motivation that we get from other people is another story.
Yeah. That's what I've been thinking about lately too, is that in this world it seems as though whether it's just any kind of athletic kind of pursuit or getting back in shape or whatever, it seems to be so top heavy with that external like motivation and a lot of words and a lot of you can pump you up and stuff. But the reality is, and I've noticed this a lot of times, like when I get into those real segments of like, man, this is hard and I'm down, and it's usually an energy thing,
Mm-hmm.
controlling your energy, because when you don't have energy for life, then the thought of going out and doing a 4-hour ride in for what kind of it sneaks in. So people have seemed to really appreciate the reality of the honesty of like the ups and downs of this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to look at, because I think personally I put a lot of pressure on myself at times to keep grinding, and I think that's just a natural tendency when you look at your Facebook feed or Twitter or whatever, and everybody's like, you can do it, blah blah blah, and it's all this stuff. So I've been thinking about that a lot this week with regards to me, and with the athletes coming up their races, about this concept of not putting too much pressure on yourself as the race comes up, and just in general with the training. And back in the day, especially the first one, when you don't know, it's sort of like that life wisdom thing, right? You miss a workout, or you don't nail a workout, and you feel guilty, or you feel a pressure that just shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? It's I missed a planned long ride on Saturday, and I just didn't have it. And instead of being like, wow, well, that's going to wreck my race, you just got to kind of rest up and get it back. I mean, it's just not, one workout is not going to make your season.
Yeah, or break it. Both ways. Yeah, right. It goes both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of had we kind of not crashed and burned, but we kind of both hit our rough patches at different. I was like maybe a week and a half ahead of you, because remember I took 2 whole days off and was just shredded and just exhausted, just mentally and physically and just totally toast. And it was like, oh man, I'm only got 100 days, so taking 2 days off is it might seem like a lot, but the way this last week has gone and the way I feel today, like, and the way that I feel my training has gone since then it was a no-brainer, to take those. That's so much the attitude and the personality and that just kind of like patient restraint that you kind of have to have right now, because right now it's just like everybody wants to pour it on. More. I got to prove it. I just keep piling on the mileage, keep piling. I'm like, that, it's not about that. It's like, it's to an extent it is, but once you get to a point, like, it's about incorporating quality, and it's about incorporating frequency, and it's about staying in a groove, and it's about, not getting even close to overtrained. Because once you get to that overtrained place and you continue to dig a hole, you may think you're out of it, but the lasting effects will last weeks and sometimes over a month. And so keeping people from that is, from their own worst enemy, is a huge part of being successful in long distance racing.
Yeah, and how much that, how that can get in your head, and I don't know, it's all physiological too, but the mental aspect of, I had somebody texted me the other day and said they're just trying to find the mojo because they're doing Chattanooga, and that was kind of what I was saying is like, you got to figure out how to find the enjoyment again real quick, whether that be a rest day or two, or like instead of, facing your 4-hour ride, maybe you need to just go out on your bike and ride for an hour and a half or something, just easy, and just kind of like figure out how to like be like, biking can be fun. It doesn't always have to be a grind.
It's supposed to be fun, actually.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's what's the weirdest dynamic, I think, with me, is that I grew up on a bike and I love cycling, and I have these bouts of where I hate it. And I think that comes back to the fact that every time I get on that thing, my tendency is just to pound the pedals and just really work it. And then, how can you not associate that with, something that's painful, instead of trying to figure out how to, that's why when I get on the mountain bike, sometimes I just ride around and it's just so casual, and I'm like, man, this is what cycling's all about. Really, and
especially if you're wearing a helmet.
Yeah, well, I know. It's just, I rode down to the neighbors the other day without my helmet, and I agree, it was not a smart move, but
but to be fair, your entrance wouldn't have been nearly as dramatic if you had a helmet on.
I bunny hopped the curb and flew under the tent, and
it would have been like, who's this tool? But you didn't. But you didn't have a helmet on. And I was like, oh. Who is this cool cat coming in?
Yeah, man.
On it. Yeah, it was a totally different vibe. Anyway.
BMX biking.
Yeah, BMX. Yeah, BMXing.
And that's what I did with my rollerblades the other day. I know I get a lot of shit about that, but
I don't give you any.
I know you used to a little bit, but I always have a little bit of anxiety when I bring up rollerblades. But that's kind of like my go-to when I get in a cycling funk. I just go out there and it's sort of, for me, because cycling can be so compacted and compartmentalized, and you're not really moving, especially on a TT bike. That's the other thing about a mountain bike, is like you're usually kind of steering and navigating, and all kinds of things are on your head. But if you're on a TT bike and you're just going and going and going and going and going, and that repetition can get really old. But like, that's why I like using my legs with rollerblades, because I feel like my body's just all into it, and it's like a fluid motion, and I'm not cutting out parts of me to just focus on those little circles.
And you don't have any expectation.
Exactly. That's a good point.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, and that's because I've had those days too. Like, I've gone out to we've talked this before. We talk about the lab and the airport, but it's a 1.2 mile closed track, and the wind out there is always vicious. And one way you might get like a legit like blasting tailwind, but if you do, it means the return trip, the headwind is just demoralizing. And and the thing is, it's like, it's not so much how the lab is, it's how you thought you were going to perform at the lab before you got there. That always does the damage. Because I've gone out there before, and this is true for every person who has a key workout or a key session or even a race, and they're like, man, like, I'm going to nail it today. And I'm like, you might say that in your mind, but B, your body might tell you something different, and then C, the conditions might just squash it and throw it away in the garbage. And if you get out there and you have a mindset of, I'm going to crush this today, and I'm going to average 21, 22 miles an hour, and you get out there and the wind is just wicked, well, bam, there goes a little bit of your mojo and your motivation. And then B, what if you're just not even feeling it? Then it's just like, oh, I'm just going to, you know what? I'm just going to make it a recovery day. And then you peel off at about an hour. I mean, I've done it out there before. It's tough. I mean, it really is. And that's also why it's a great place to train. But I found, like, recently that if I just kind of go out there and choose to kind of just get in my zone and really just get into my groove on effort, then, and I don't even look at what, like, my miles per hour are for, like, a good while. And because that's just going to be what it'll be. And you know that is one of the benefits of training with power, is that you know the effort you're putting out no matter what. And if one day it's 23 miles an hour and the other day is 19, at least it's the weather.
Yeah.
It's like every time somebody posts one of their workouts, I'm like, all right, your average mile per hour looks awesome, but show me what the temperature was, show me what the terrain was, and show me what your heart rate was. like for all I know, it was pancake flat, 55 degrees, and your heart rate was like 170. Like give me something else to show me what kind of work it was. And because there's so many. You're just showing me the cover of the book. Show me the next few pages. Show me the next few chapters. And there's so much more behind everything than what people show, and usually you can just kind of always, at least I do, whether it's fair or not, I always can kind of read into what you're actually showing isn't what's represented in the image that you're allowing other people to see.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very important point, because the more, and it's taken me a while, but I'm kind of there, because I see these things posted, and that's kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is you always see this, like everybody in your mind is just crushing it every day, and that doesn't necessarily, it may be a cherry-picked workout too, it's like, where were the other 5 workouts this week? What, you had one good day and you're going to post that now? I mean, seriously, and then it's like, that's the illusion that's created in life, is that, that's why everything, whether it be TV or whatever, or news we talk about, they just show the most dramatic or, emotion-inducing clips, or you post your biggest workout, and all of a sudden that's like, man, I'm not doing that. How do I keep up with that pace? And then, but if you know what to look into and you realize what's behind that cover, like you're saying, then you start getting a better grip on reality, essentially. So, that was kind of the genesis of the post I made in our closed group. I think was it yesterday? It was yesterday. Yeah. And it's like, friends don't let friends do 3.5-hour training runs to prepare for an Ironman. And it's like, I've gotten like a slew. I've seen a few, and then I got an email yesterday from, and I would describe this individual as an athlete in distress, coming really, really close to Louisville. Mm-hmm. And they went out of town for a family event, the birth of a relative, and so this individual couldn't get in a really, really, really long ride, and so the person's coach suggested, well, you should just do a 3.5-hour run then. And I have a little something to say. Okay, the floor is yours. Oh, is that an alarm? Uh-oh. Is that a warning? Run warning?
Warning. Stop doing 3+ hour runs. Stop it. If somebody's telling you to do it, reassess who your friends are. I repeat, stop doing 3+ hour training runs. They are counterproductive, and all you were doing is, in my opinion, practicing hiking. It's honestly, man, like it's starting to like make my skin crawl, like with the amount of like the different. I guess like. When you've coached for as long as I have, and by no means do I always have all the answers, because I don't. The longer I've been in this, I guess you just assume that most coaches take not a similar approach, but an approach that's at least appropriate and respects the athlete, in their long-term like sustainability in the sport. And to see like 7.5 hour bike rides followed by like an hour and a half run literally makes my skin crawl. And to know that there are individuals out there prescribing that garbage just frustrate. It's just frustrating. It honestly frustrates me that either that there are people out there that are mentoring and guiding and supposed to be watching over people and guiding them on this great journey, and are literally filling them with just total and utter garbage. And that's my rant. But it's super frustrating to see and hear, and I feel sorry for some of these athletes that you've been told that's what it takes to be successful, and then when you're not successful, then you don't have any other place to turn. And I'm here to tell you that as a coach who thinks that's absolutely ludicrous. And for some reason, I know there are quite a few coaches that listen to this podcast. If you're a coach and that's something that you do on the day-to-day, then I hope you reevaluate the way that you construct your plan and you treat your athletes and you build them up with confidence, because that's no way to develop an athlete. It's just not.
Well, let's look at it from this perspective, like from a layman's perspective, like me. I've always heard, and I think the opinions vary on this, but after you do an Ironman, the recovery can be a month, 2 months, 3 months, right? They talk about this long recovery after that kind of a day. And what you're doing on these, if you're doing those kind of training runs and rides and runs together and stuff, you're essentially, flirting with that kind of a workout, like a race workout. I mean, it's like you need serious recovery time after putting that kind of punishment on your bones and your muscles. And so what, are you going to do that during the training and then in theory technically need 3 weeks to recover from it? But no, because the next day you're back in the pool and you're going right back at it. So that long term, if nothing, I mean, that's like, I think one of the biggest keys of this, right, is that long term love and ability to do the sport. I mean, you're just like continually shortening your life cycle, your lifespan.
Yeah, you're stressing your body in ways that not only are super, I think dangerous. Well, no, dangerous when it comes to raising the risk of injury and burnout and just like overall systematic fatigue. But what are you even training for in a 3.5 hour run?
Exactly.
Like, give me a 2 hour or maybe even a 2 hour and 15-minute run with some purpose, and then get the hell off your feet and go enjoy the day. Like, and it's being able to do that and knowing you could do more than like, I just don't get it. It's like there's a whole lot of hammers out there that are just like looking for a nail, and what you should be doing is looking for a big pile of lumber, and you're the one that's the carpenter. You're the one that's supposed to help them build something that's going to be sustainable and lasting and something that they're proud of. And that also what you do? You do it together. You get feedback. You listen to feedback. Like, it's like I listen, like, for so you and I, for example, I listen to your body, I interpret it, and then I regurgitate it back to you, and then you tell me how you feel, and then we complete the cycle again. Like, it's not hammer to nail, and then at the end of the week you tell me how you felt. It's tell me how you're doing day to day. It's a relationship. It's together. It's we. It's not me. And there's just I've just come across so much that way, and it's just I've reached my boiling point and I'm happy to hear from athletes, and I'm grateful that they have found the confidence and the self-awareness and the respect for themselves to reach out, or at least to ask a question like, is this whatever? And I don't ever like to undermine other coaches, but sometimes some people are just like handing out horse shit. And I've had 3 or 4 instances in the last month or two where I've heard from athletes who have like literally gotten to a place in their minds to where they just thought they were just never going to be able to run, or they were just never going to be good at anything, because like you have individuals who, and society does this too, is that you just set people up for these, like, you should PR every day, and you should go out and hit this track workout and hit this track workout and hit this, like, dude, weekly track workouts are for the birds. I'm just telling you that right now. They're for show. They are not for dough. And just like having to maintain and keep these paces. And just to give an example, I had an athlete who came on like a month ago who literally had become petrified of running because she was so intimidated and scared of running from the previous structure and a bad past experience with a coach, that she just couldn't hang, that she just couldn't keep up, and that she was just going to basically have to start off as a walk runner, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm here to tell you right now, if you're a person who likes to run, walk, or walk, run, however you want to say it, you don't have to be one of those if you don't want to be. You don't have to, like, it's perfectly fine to do it, and it's acceptable, and I think it's great for a lot of people. But you can also be a runner. And this athlete had gotten to such a point where she was terrified when I just put in like a super easy 30-minute run. And then after 2 weeks, she was like, holy shit, like I can run for like 40 minutes if you just take it slow, you know? And it's like we talk about this all the time. That's why so many people hate swimming, is because they get in and they think they're supposed to, like, they're trying so hard to go nowhere that it's like internally demoralizing. And why would you want to continually put yourself in a situation to make yourself feel that way? I wouldn't. You know, it's a microcosm of your experience the other day at the lab. It was just demoralizing. It was soul crushing. When you do that to people over and over and over and over again, what you do is you convince them that they can't, or that all the things that they've done haven't worked, and that you're the only way for the answer, and that if they can't do these and they can't make these, you know, benchmarks and PRs and thresholds and minute per miles and miles per hours and functional threshold powers, like, that they're just not going to be anything. Like, that's total garbage. And that's not even what this sport is about. Like, we do this for fun. We do it for fun. Mm-hmm. Not only do we do it for fun, we pay a good chunk of money. I would say 99% of athletes out there at least spend enough to insert a comma in their yearly expenses for this triathlon hobby that we have. And then you find how much it literally takes away from their life and their self-worth and the way they think about themselves, and they're just frustrated, and they literally, and you know what? And maybe that's the reason why the sport is dying. Maybe that's the reason why participation is on declines, because there's so much information out there. It's so confusing. There's so many people dishing it out that claim to be experts. I'm not an expert by any means, and I don't think anybody should claim to be an expert, because that means you know it all. But there are so many people out there that their claim to fame is coaches, and they coach this, and like you have to have this, and you have to be like looking at this like, listen, man, like, yeah, do we have athletes on the super pointy end that are super fast and always going to snag, you know, high podium places and overall finishes? Yeah. But you know who else we have? We have athletes just getting started. Mm-hmm. That's what we like. That's when I talk to an athlete and they ask me what I look for, like, my prerequisite has nothing to do with your time. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing to do with your athletic ability. I don't care if it's your first. I don't care if you're coming on your 20th season. If you want to get better and you want to find out just what it's like to get better, and you want to be healthy and happy, and you've had a bad experience, and it's time to just surround yourself with a better, like, a group of great, you know, sound-minded individuals, and you're committed to doing it long term, then come on board. Like, it's got nothing to do with how fast or how slow you are. We just like good people who like to work hard, who like to push each other, and then when they're done doing their own workout, you know what they're also doing? Encouraging other people, mm-hmm. Setting a good example, being nice. You know, it's not about it. We do this for fun, And yeah, it's quite a long rant, but it's been super frustrating for me, to be honest with you. The last month is I just have, I want to like open up my doors and be like, come one, come all. Like, if you're on that end and you feel that way about triathlon, you feel that way about life, and you feel like you've been mishandled, it's supposed to be fun. I don't care where you go or what you do or what, bandwagon you jump on or what team you sign up with. Go have fun. Make it a good part of your life. And that's the most important thing. And then see what happens. And I promise you that if you put those two things first, the healthy and the happy, then you'll reach every bit of potential and every bit of success that you ever wanted to reach in this sport.
Yeah, man. Trust your training, like we talked about last time. And I just let's dive into that a little bit, because obviously this is a passionate subject for you. And I've been seeing a lot of posts, and people have been talking about, some guy posted, my longest run 16 miles. Is that enough? Am I going to bonk? And I just like to reflect on that, because when I started running at age 49, never ran more than maybe 3 miles in my life up to that point. I went into my first Ironman with a long run of 14 miles. And of course I was, a little bit, but in the back of my mind, I wasn't that worried about it. For some reason, I knew that, like, okay, you tell me, out of all Ironman triathletes, how many of them actually run? Like, not run the race, but I mean, like, feel like when they get off the bike, all that run training they've done and think they can do on Ironman, like, how many people even come close to that? Like, maybe 10%?
Ooh, I think that's generous.
Okay.
I mean,
so that's a point.
I would say between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
And just looking at, just from what I've noticed, and then looking at like results, I think probably 5 to 10%.
So people always talk to me about, like going into that race, people were always like, because I'd never run more than 14 miles, so it was always like, watch out for that 18-mile wall, it's real, and this 20-mile wall and whatever. So I kept waiting for it to happen, and of course it never did. But what I always tell people is I hit my wall the minute I stepped off that bike. And at that point it was all above my shoulders. You're gonna, if you're in better bike shape than I was that first time, you might get a little more time on the, it's just a matter of, and this is again what we talk about all the time, is that your legs from cycling have to be there, or that run is just not going to be what you think it's going to be. And to go out and do 3.5 hour runs or 20+ mile runs all the time just don't matter. It's not what you need. You need to be confident and be able to, battle through that marathon, I think, for most people. And you can do it. I mean, it's just like that. You would rather be fresh for that than just absolutely destroyed, because what you need is your mind, and you need a good attitude to push on that run. And I keep seeing it all the time, man. 20 plus, and it's just the more I learn about it, the less it makes sense. Again, I don't know. I just
train for show, bike for show, walk real slow. T-shirt coming.
Walk real slow. Yeah.
$28, $5 shipping, $33 all in. Be available after Louisville.
Yeah. And I mean, how do you explain that to somebody who's never been through it? And I think we're obviously trying to do that right now.
Well, I mean, but some people think that's normal. Like when I try to explain this athlete, and I just, it's not hard for me to not sugarcoat things. I just simply said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And it is. And they're like, well, why? I'm like, you tell me why. Like, and I do. I push my athletes or other people to critically think, but you tell me, like, and it probably also depends, to be honest with you, like who you follow or who your friends are on Facebook, because if you like peruse through and you watch everybody post like these epic workouts that, if you'll notice, have nothing to do with swimming.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Oh, check out this awesome pool swim. Like, yeah, and said nobody ever. It is a sport that's involved with this triathlon thing. But anyway, it's I can see how, like, the abundant of free information, and that people feel here's the two biggest, like, part, or the two aspects of social media that make things so difficult when it comes to information, is that you've given everyone an opportunity to ask any question comfortably hiding behind their laptop, and you've given everybody an opportunity to act like an expert behind their laptop. And that just leads to an inordinate amount of false information that may or may not to apply to anyone, or may not only apply to one person. And I don't. It's just bad. Like, I don't get it. And yeah, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but I can tell you from personal experience and all the athletes that I've coached that have, hundreds that have done an Ironman, that kind of training is just counterproductive and leads you more towards filling up your fatigue bank than your performance bank. And that's just, and yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's a lot of work to manage an athlete's training load, and to listen to what they say, look at what the data says, and then hear what they're actually telling you, and then make it all and then redo it and make it all work the next week. And it's a lot, but that's also what makes it so rewarding. Like, that's what makes this job like the greatest job ever, is that you get to know these athletes from the inside out. Like, and I don't get it. I know there's a perfectly good reason why you have coaches that you don't communicate with. That's fine. I just can't fathom it. Like, if you don't know what an athlete's going through in their personal life, how can you dictate what you need to address or how you need to load them in their hobby? Mm-hmm. It's like, I always tell athletes, like, I need to know how you're doing personally, because if you have like a 60-hour grueling work week coming with a huge deadline, I'm not going to just pile it on, because that's all I know how to do, is just shove volume your way. Here, do some more 7-hour rides, and here, do some more 3.5-hour runs, and just shove on some more volume and volume and volume. It's like, you're not going to be able to do that. Like, why don't I give you something that's attainable and that you can focus on? And that way your sport and your hobby and this great thing that is triathlon can be an escape and give you energy versus, oh, well, I can't do this and I know I can't, so there goes another day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it eats people alive. And
many victories are huge. There's going to be so many defeats that it's about leaving. I mean, how many times have I told you about this, where I've, the lab the other day when I went riding, or if I'm swimming, if I get to a point where, and how do you know this point too, is like, there's so many times when you go out on workouts and you're not feeling it at first, mm-hmm. and you're kind of like going through this stuff, and that's what was happening to me the other day, where I you've seen me, well, you get up out of your saddle and you kind of just hammer, you try and wake things up and get it going. But there was a point when I just knew that it wasn't going to come together, and I had the, sort of the courage to walk away from it at that point, rather than to compound the problem by diving in deeper. And just, I mean, it's so much of belief. Belief is a powerful weapon, and if you have that confidence that you don't have to have it every day and go out and just work yourself into oblivion.
Yeah, and nobody expects you to. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
That's like.
Who do you think of when that's happening, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you should think of yourself.
Yeah.
Like like, don't think of me. Like, you're never gonna, like, I will all, if you go out for a workout and you say, like, example, exhibit A, my athlete that's doing worlds this Sunday, he went out for his key session on Saturday, and he had done a really hard time trial on Thursday and then raced the last Sunday, and he went out for his ride and just said, I just didn't have it, legs felt slow, so just rode steady. My response, smart man. Not, why didn't you hit your numbers? Why didn't you hit we got 8 days out. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and then you know what he did yesterday on his run workout? Dominated. And if he hadn't listened to his body the day before, he would have felt even worse and then dug himself a bigger hole. Like, that's the thing, is like, always trust yourself. And as a coach and as an athlete, that trust has to be, you know, always reciprocated. Like, I always have to trust you and you always have to trust me. And if we both trust each other, then we're going to get somewhere and it's going to be good. Rather than you're going to end up resenting me for either A, feeling like I give you too much training that doesn't have any like substance behind it, or you literally mentally suffer through workouts that you just don't have in you. And then you not only do you begin to resent me, you begin to resent the sport and working out in general, because it's not what it's about. And so you should always, always, always listen to yourself. Listen to yourself and listen to your body, and never apologize for doing that.
That's good stuff, man. I remember back when we started working together, and I think this is a testament to that. It's like, you know, you give out workouts not for the season, week or two at a time, and you know, we communicated a lot during that stretch. And what would happen was, you know, when you would show me, you know, next week's workouts or whatever, not too far in advance, they would always be like, yeah, that feels right to me. You know, you would be like, I didn't realize it at the time, but, you know, I might be hating cycling or whatever, and you would just kind of like up my swim, and you'd kind of go by, where am I at? You know, like, and you've said it before on here, but like, if somebody's like, man, really loving the swim right now, you hear that, and you let them do more of what they're enjoying. So it's kind of a really positive cycle, I think, for the most part. And I couldn't, you know, that's one of those things, because if you look at that workout that pops up and you're just like, Jesus, I can't. And if you say that a week in advance, I mean, where's your head just going to start spiraling? You know?
Yep.
And there is nothing worse than that, facing a week of work that you don't even want to do. And then it just spills into everything else, and the whole plan hits the shit.
And then you just like, screw it. I'm done for the week.
Screw it. Yeah.
Screw it.
Fuck it. I'm going rollerblading. But
going blading.
That's what I did, actually, after that lab ride that sucked so bad. I talked to Erica, and she's like, you need to get on your rollerblades right now. And I was like, oh, come on, coach. And but she was right. I just went out and put in like a 35-minute blade thing, and I just took it real easy, and just kind of freed my mind. And I was like, you know, this was just something to get moving, and I felt good. And then the next day I went out and just crushed it, you know, in a very positive, reaffirming sort of way. So sometimes it just takes that little bit of 30 minutes of something that feels good and enjoyable, and no pressure. Like you said, there's no pressure on it at all. You don't have to hit any number. You're just kind of moving around, walking the dog.
Yeah, it's about, it's funny, man. It's like so much of successful training and success and just like feeling good about where you are in life is limiting or totally like wiping away any stress, but also just totally like deleting any like inkling of guilt that you may have, whether it's skipping a workout, hitting a workout, not doing the workout the way it should be, choosing a rollerblade instead of bike. Like, those should be things that you feel empowered to do because you trust yourself and you know your body. And when you get to that point, everything else makes sense. And yeah, you'll have to make sacrifices and be okay here and there. But like, I had a feeling like that, I don't know, it was a Friday night when I went out I did 4.5 hours Saturday morning solo by myself on the trace, earphones in, and Allie is always just like super, super awesome when she knows I have a long ride, and she's like, I'll take Hayden the whole night, you get some rest. And he was having a little trouble getting to sleep Friday night, and I was like, why don't you just let me take him for a bit? And she was like, are you sure? I don't want you to be too tired. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I want to take him and I want to help, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to wake up tomorrow morning and head out for my ride knowing that I got all this great sleep and you didn't. Because then I'm just going to be carrying guilt with me. And if I'm carrying guilt with me, then you know what? My ride's not going to be that good anyway. And so I took him for half the night and gave him back, and then woke up and got to work. But it changed the whole mindset and mentality and the approach to my ride, because I left without feeling any guilt versus, the other way around. And so it's just that's so much of it is, setting yourself up for success and positive and trusting yourself, and then knowing that you have other people around you that support you making those independent decisions within a team or within a coach-athlete relationship. That makes the whole difference in the world. Having somebody say, oh, well, you know your body better than I do, I trust you, versus, we're just not going to get in what we needed to get in. And like you needed any assistance on feeling more stressed or guilty. It's like we're all most of us are our worst critic and are already so hard on ourselves anyway. We don't need that, and that's where successful racing comes in. And I guess that's probably the best place to close. Is I was talking to Ross and I was like, yeah, man, once you get to a point, that's all you. I'm not going to give you a pace or a heart rate. I'm like, it's all you. You're going to know how you feel. You're going to know what you're capable of. Who am I to tell you what to do? And you just have to trust yourself to make the best decision. Mm-hmm. For everybody racing today, well, it'd be too late to listen to it today, but this weekend, execute. You want your race to look like this. You always want to think about the run. Once you get in the water and when you're on the bike, you want to think about the run. You want to be so patient and so patient. You want to fill up your pot. You want to put it on the stove. You want to crank that to about medium high. And then you just want to let it sit. You can feel it bubbling. You can hear it bubbling. But is it time to take the top off yet? Is it time to let it just boil over? And that's where you will find yourself making the toughest decision of the day, and where you can let it rip. Are you going to pop the top off too early and then let all the cool air in and it'll just fizzle back down to flat? Or are you going to pop the top off just at the right moment when it's starting to boil over, and then you just let it rip? And that's the point where you can use all the emotions and all the mental energy and all the things that you've been carrying with you. Then it's time to use that to get you to the finish line, to do something special. But if you pop the cork too early and you take the lid off the pot during the bike, then when it comes time when you hit that back half of the marathon and things start to feel special and things start to feel, like you're getting chill bumps and that something awesome might be happening, you want to have the legs to use that energy. And if you don't, then it's just going to fizzle. So be patient, execute. And when it's time to take the lid off, let it rip.
If you want to join our private Facebook group, Crushing Iron Group on Facebook, search us and we'll let you in there. I think that's a great way to end it.
Unless you're a bot, you ain't coming in.
Unless you're a bot, we're going to catch you eventually.
Bot catchers.
We'll get you.
Yep.
If you dig the podcast, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/crushingiron. C26_triathlon on Instagram, Twitter, Crushing Iron.
And, hey, if you just want some support and you're looking for an awesome team and you're ready to move the right direction, reach out to us. Reach out to Mike. You can get a hold of him at crushingiron@gmail.com or hit me up on my email at c26coach@gmail.com and get after it this week.
Yep. Heading to Wisconsin this week. I'm pretty pumped.
Heading to Nuga. We'll be all over, splattered across the U.S.
We're going to do a C26 first. I think I'm going to do a podcast recording by myself, and Robbie's going to do one at Chattanooga Worlds, 70.3 Worlds. We're going to have, who knows what's going to happen with that, but we're going to have sort of a live-ish coverage podcast from each place that we'll be releasing sometime next week. I'm pretty excited about that. We may do some Facebook Lives from on the scene.
For sure. For sure, yeah.
So we'll be at Chattanooga 70.3 Worlds, and I'll be at Ironman Wisconsin, and we'll be probably covering it better than Ironman.
Probably so.
All right. With that, have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast on iTunes and all kinds of other places.
Check you next time. That's it, man. That's all I got. I'm good.
All right. Okay, have a great day. We'll see you in about 30 minutes.
See you.